How did the first, and arguably the greatest, Roman emperor die? Was Augustus, the man who found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble, a victim of a palace conspiracy? Did his own wife, the powerful Livia, poison him to secure the throne for her son? For centuries, this question has haunted historians. Today, we're going to dive deep into the final days of Augustus, separate fact from fiction, and uncover the real story behind his death. Welcome back to Roman Emperor's Death Explained. I'm your host, and in this series, we're exploring the often dramatic, sometimes mysterious, and always fascinating deaths of Rome's most powerful men. We're starting right at the beginning with the Julio-Claudian dynasty, and who better to kick things off than the founder himself, Gaius Octavius, better known as Augustus. If you're a fan of Roman history, or just love a good historical mystery, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss a single episode. So let's set the scene. The year is AD 14. Augustus is 75 years old. He has ruled the Roman world for over 40 years, bringing an unprecedented era of peace and stability known as the Pax Romana. He was a master politician, a brilliant administrator, and had outlived nearly every rival, friend, and chosen heir. His health, however, had always been a concern. Throughout his life, he suffered from various illnesses, but he was a survivor. By AD 14, he was an old man, and his long reign was clearly nearing its end. The biggest question in Rome was not if he would die, but when and who would succeed him. This is where the story gets interesting and the conspiracy theories begin. The main suspect in this ancient cold case is none other than his third wife, Livia Drusilla. The accusation, primarily pushed by the historian Tacitus writing over a century later, is that Livia poisoned fresh figs to kill Augustus. But why would she do it? The motive, according to the gossip, was simple: power. Augustus had outlived his grandsons, Gaius and Lucius Caesar, his preferred heirs. His only remaining choice was his stepson, Tiberius, who was Livia's son from a previous marriage. The story goes that Augustus was having second thoughts and might have been planning to bring his last surviving grandson, Agrippa Postumus, back from exile to be his heir instead. To prevent this and ensure Tiberius's succession, Livia allegedly took matters into her own hands. Before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Based on what you know about Roman politics, do you think Livia was capable of murdering her husband to put her son on the throne? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was she a ruthless political operator or a loyal wife? Now, let's examine the evidence for this poisoning theory. The primary sources are ancient historians like Tacitus and Cassius Dio. Tacitus, in particular, paints Livia as a cunning and ruthless woman who would stop at nothing. He describes a scene where Livia supposedly smeared poison on figs still on the tree, offered the clean ones to Augustus, and then ate the poisoned ones herself after he picked them. It's a dramatic story, but is it credible? The problem is that these historians were writing long after the events, and they often wrote with a specific narrative or political bias. They loved a good scandal, and what's more scandalous than the empress poisoning the emperor? It makes for a great story, but it's light on concrete proof. There were no eyewitness accounts from the time that confirmed any poisoning. So what's the alternative? The much less dramatic, but far more likely, explanation is that Augustus simply died of natural causes. He was 75, which was an exceptionally old age for that era. He was traveling in Nola, a town in Campania, the region where his father's family was from. It was August, the month named in his honor. According to the historian Suetonius, who provides a much more detailed and less sensational account of his final days, Augustus felt unwell and decided to rest. He spent his last days in the same house and even the same room where his own father had died. He gathered his friends and family around him. His final moments, as described by Suetonius, were not filled with agony from poison, but with a sense of peace and closure. He asked for a mirror, had his hair combed, and his jaw, which had dropped, set. He then asked his friends if he had played his part well in the comedy of life, and quoted a line from a Greek play, "Since the play has been so good, clap your hands and send us off with your applause." He inquired about the health of a relative's sick daughter, and then, while kissing his wife Livia, he died in her arms. His last words to her were reportedly, "Livia, live on, mindful of our marriage." And farewell. This account feels much more personal and believable. It paints a picture of a man who knew his time was up and was facing it with dignity. He was tying up loose ends and saying his goodbyes. The official cause of death was recorded as illness. There was no investigation, no accusations of foul play at the time. The idea of poisoning only gained traction with later writers who were critical of the imperial system and enjoyed portraying the Julio-Claudian family as dysfunctional and murderous. So let's weigh the options. On one hand, we have a juicy conspiracy theory of a power-hungry wife poisoning her husband with figs. It's dramatic, it fits the soap opera narrative of the Julio-Claudians, and it makes for a fantastic story. On the other hand, we have a detailed, more contemporary account of a 75-year-old man with a lifetime history of poor health, dying peacefully of old age surrounded by his loved ones. As a historian, you have to look at what's more probable. While we can never be 100% certain, the overwhelming consensus among modern historians is that Augustus died of natural causes. The poisoning story is likely just that, a story, a piece of political gossip that grew into a legend over the decades. The death of Augustus marked the end of an era. He had ruled for so long that most people in the Roman Empire couldn't remember a time before him. His peaceful death and the smooth transition of power to Tiberius were, in a way, his final and greatest achievement. It proved that the system he had built, the Roman Empire, could endure beyond its founder. He had successfully transformed the Republic into a stable monarchy in all but name, and his death was the final test of that system. And there you have it, the story of how the first Roman emperor, Augustus, most likely died. Not from a poisoned fig, but from old age and illness, closing the final chapter of his extraordinary life with dignity. What do you think? Does the natural causes explanation make more sense? Or are you still Team Livia the Poisoner? I'd love to read your final verdict in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for the first episode of Roman Emperor's Death Explained. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll be looking at the dark and paranoid end of Augustus' successor, Tiberius. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.